lunch and learn. I've got Jules White here from the Website Success Hub, and we're going to talk about how to stay relevant with your SEO in the age of AI. But before we get into that, Jules, give us a little bit of introduction to who you are, what you do, who you help, how you help them, all of that fun stuff, so that people here can get to know you a bit better. And then I'll do a little intro of technology coaching, and then we'll get into the meaty stuff of the next hour.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here. We've been geeking out before, and we just thought we need to come and just do a LinkedIn Live on this. And yeah. So I'm Jules White. I am a website and SEO consultant, and I help local and online businesses use their website, usually their existing website, to get more traffic and sales. So helping them to get more traffic from Google and AI searches, as we're moving more into that, which we're going to chat about today. So I work one-to-one consulting. I have a membership as well called the Website Growth Club, which is all about taking step-by-step actions to get your website so that it shows up in searches and converts, and have online courses as well. And yeah, so that's sort of the main things that I do.
I met you through a group, didn't I?
Yes.
Was it last year that we met through the Female Founders Rise community?
I think it's, I feel
Was
like
it this
we've known
year?
each other forever.
I know, it does feel like that.
I think it was only a couple of months ago, or like maybe 3 or 4 months ago that we met, actually. But
It actually does feel longer than that, but it's because we've had some really amazing conversations. And this is why we thought it'd be really good just to jump on a lunch and learn and to help other people around it too. So before we get into it, I'll just share a little bit more about technology coaching for those that are joining that don't know. I know this is going live out on LinkedIn and it's going live on YouTube, but technology coaching is a digital skills and CTO support company based in Glasgow in Scotland. We help businesses have a complete digital mindset, which you might see this behind me here in all of our imagery. And really, what does that mean? It means out of these 6 skills of innovation, web presence, social media marketing, cybersecurity, AI and automation and data, is about understanding them all and how they all work together, using our technical skills and those essential skills to make sure that you are competent when you are working within these 6 areas, either as a team, either as a leader or as a business owner. And we do that through training, courses, upskilling. We've got our Digital Dominators podcast, which Jules was one of our guests. Well, actually one of the first guests on the podcast as well. So we've just had some really great chats, and we just wanted to share this even further because I know almost every time I chat with somebody or they're asking questions around their visibility piece and around their AI and SEO, this is always what pops up. And there's so many things that people think they need to do or they think that is happening. So I almost kind of want to address these first of all. I want us to kind of go, I can't get the word out right straight away, but it's almost the things that there are not happening, but actually are happening. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Myth busting.
Myth busting! That's the word I'm looking for, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about myth busting first of all.
Yes.
So the first thing, right?
I don't know if we're going to have any comments on LinkedIn. I don't know if there's a way to keep an eye on those. Have you
Well, I've got LinkedIn up here.
Yes.
And again, I suppose I just need to refresh the page.
Yes.
I do have the YouTube just here as well, but I need to put that on mute.
Yeah, I was going to say you'll hear us talking in the background.
Yep, I can see it at the same time. So we're there, and we're also, but it's very distracting seeing myself on 3 screens at the same time. But I'll try not, I'll just look at you, Jules.
Yeah,
That'll
we're just
work.
embracing this, aren't we?
Just embracing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So let's get some myth busting out there, right? I'm going to start with the first one, and then you can answer, and then we can go into some more. So the first one is usually SEO is not important anymore.
Yes,
not
we
important.
hear this a lot. Yeah, you don't need to do SEO
Don't need to do it.
anymore. SEO is dead.
It's dead.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the AI tools will do it all for us.
Yeah,
We don't need
absolutely.
it.
Yes,
We don't need
exactly. Yeah.
So let's bust that. Let's bust that myth.
Yes. So the problem with assuming that SEO is dead is that it doesn't take into account the fact that the things that are going to help you to show up in AI searches, the fundamentals of it is that your website needs to be optimized for search. So the likelihood of Google or of AI searches showing up a site that has no SEO in place is very unlikely, because they are relying, these AI models are and so we're talking about ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, all of the AI sort of tools that are out there. They are trained on the internet, basically. They're trained on what's out there on the web already. And so the difference between Google, which crawls through websites, Google's, like, I feel like we need to take it step back a little bit here in terms of
what does Google do? It's a spider.
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
So Google's little robots go out and crawl through all of the web pages and decide where to put them in Google's index. And this is there are over 200 ranking factors that Google uses to decide for each page of your website where in its index, which is like a big library, whereabouts should that go.
It's like a filing cabinet.
It
like goes through the filing cabinet. That's proper old school. That's shown our ages a little bit, but yeah, that filing cabinet system where you would go through and check.
And Google needs to know which places in that filing cabinet your web pages should go. So that's, up until the invention of AI, that is the way that web pages have been ranked. And ranking means showing up in those search results pages. So somebody types something into Google and your website shows up. So we one of the things that we need to think about is the way that our website is structured, is how that actually then shows up. So whether whether we're actually talking about the things that we do on a website. We've talked about this before, of the fact that if I've just completely lost my train of thought. This is really
it's the structure of your website page,
yes,
and that helps with the SEO of how the search engines can find it, right?
Yes, absolutely. So yes. So the things that are going to help you to show up in ChatGPT, Google Gemini, are the things that has already been crawled through the web and has been indexed in Google's rankings, or in Google's index rather. And so for that to then happen, your website needs to be set up in the right way. So you need to be talking about the things that you do. You need to have your back end of your website. So as you build it, it needs to be set up with structured page hierarchy. So we talk about heading tags and things like that when we get into SEO a bit more, but that it needs to be set up in a way that basically Google's little robots can crawl through and read it. And that is what those AI, oh my goodness, my words. Those AI tools are actually then trained on. So that's what they have been trained on, basically.
Yeah, so, it's the data that humans would use. It's just basically transferred over into what the AI tools are using. And so the structure of what the search engine would do, the AI tools doing the exact same thing. It's just able to do it quicker and faster and more effectively if there are right keywords added.
Yes.
For the AI tools. So let's talk about keywording and myth bust those keywords, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need to add keywords to my blog posts anymore. Again, another myth, I would say. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so keywords are still important, but I think it's just thinking about it a bit differently, really. So what used to happen is people would stuff keywords into either a blog post, or any page on your website is ultimately just a lot of text that Google's robots would read through, and the keywords are the things that people type into Google, and keywords is a bit misleading because it can be a key phrase, and more often than not now, especially for smaller businesses, it's the key phrases are the ones that you're going to be showing up for. So I'm not going to be showing up if somebody types in SEO into Google or asks ChatGPT what is SEO. My small website is not going to be showing up for that, but there are longer versions of that, questions that could show up for that, like give me an SEO consultant in Bedfordshire or something like that. I've got more chance of showing up for that. Okay. So that we call them keywords, but they can be whole sentences. And this is one of the most important things in the way that things are changing, is that it is more of that conversational language. It's those longer queries that AI is actually using as people are using the AI searches, really. So keywords are still important because they're ultimately what you're putting onto your website that is then displaying that information. You're talking about the things that people are searching for, and your website is then connecting with that. So keywords are still important, and there are certain places that you can use them within your website that helps you with that basic fundamental SEO, which is critical to you then showing up in the AI searches. things like using them in your page titles, using them in those headings that we talk about throughout, that helps to break up the page, make it more readable and understandable, both for real people and for Google and for the AI searches as well. So we need to be doing that. We still need to be talking about those keywords, but because what's more important, what's more relevant now is that actually the AI models are so much better at understanding the intent. So they understand what people actually mean by if they're searching for something very specific. So traditionally with Google, somebody might search for something like skin clinic near me, for example, whereas and then Google would show you up a search results page with 10 blue links. So there would be 10 businesses on there. Most likely you would see something like some Google business profiles. Google would have a good idea that somebody is looking for a local business, and they would deliver that. Whereas in using AI, if I go into ChatGPT, I could ask something like, who does treatments locally that can help my menopausal skin look more hydrated?
Well, that's a very good prompt. Not everybody writes prompts like that. So they will still use AI tools like they use Google tools, right? So they might still be using
Skin
clinic near me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a really good point actually. That if somebody is using it that way, like the AI understands what I'm asking with Skin Clinic Near Me, and what it also understands most likely is that I might have had a conversation with it yesterday about the fact of why is my nose so red, or why is my skin so dehydrated, or something like that. Why do I look so tired today? So it would then understand if I then ask the next
There's too many answers to that question, isn't there?
But it would understand it better. It would have so much more understanding of what I'm actually trying to achieve there. So then ChatGPT or Google Gemini would go off and break that search down into different searches. So it would then look at the skin clinics locally. It would look at skin clinics that specifically mention they help with menopausal skin, or have treatments that mention hydration, and all of those things. It would also understand the words, not just the words menopausal skin, hydrated. It would, where we come back to the keyword thing, actually it would understand a lot more of the nuances around that. And if I'm talking about, if I'm looking for something with skin hydration, then it would also understand words like, glowing and all of those kind of things that are then related to it. And AI search is much better at understanding that.
Okay, that's great. What I think, I'm just going to go back to that, what we type into the AI tools and how that reflects into keywords, because I'm sure you've seen this, because I've noticed this over the last few weeks on the social media platforms, specifically the Meta tools, so Instagram and Facebook. Underneath the image of any post that people goes out, they've got prompts from Meta AI. So if I just load up here, I can maybe share an example on screen, but if it's visible here, so if I scroll my feed just a little bit, yeah. So here we go, Japan. If you can see that, Japan travel tips and planning. Look what pops underneath there. Can you see that?
Oh yes, I've seen those boxes and I haven't really paid attention to it.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I
Best
always
time
just
to
assume they're
visit.
ads or something. So
So that little circly thing is the Meta AI. And so Meta are doing a really big job at the moment of encouraging people to use their tool as much as possible. And in every single post, just about every single post, you'll start to see, it's mostly in groups that I've found it as, that I've started to see those questions come through. Like there's some there as well.
interesting. I saw
So,
this in Notion. I use Notion, which is a
okay.
project management tool, and I saw this in Notion this morning, that it was prompting with those kind of searches that would then go off and search outside of the Notion itself. So
And the adverts that are on TV for like Gemini and for Google products about their phones specifically, it's giving those prompts on the television adverts. And that used to be the style of prompts that we would ask Siri when Siri was released with the iPhone back in the day. So it was like, how do you find me a restaurant near me, and then it could do these tools, because that's when Apple Maps was all about that. So it's interesting to see. It's like, what, 10 years later that Siri was out, that if not a little bit longer, that actually these AI tools, they're given the same prompting as what you would have given Siri to do. So it's learned behaviors that it's encouraging people to use, when they're going to interact with these AI tools. So that, when it reflects to keywords and your SEO, let's talk a little bit about what alt tagging means. Now, I had a session yesterday with some founders, and I was there as a tech coach and some other tech coaches there, and we had a conversation, just like we're having now, around the importance of SEO and why it's important to add alt text to your imagery and the importance of that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about what alt text is to start off with, the reason why it was set up to start off in the first place, and now the importance of adding it onto your content.
Yeah, definitely. So images, videos, audio content, all of these things are really, really important because we're seeing more and more of it appearing in the search results. So image file names and alt text is one of the places where you can add those keywords. So add that description of what this is about, add that in. And it's normally, if we're talking about website builders, that would be a little button in the back end of your, or not a button, a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Box, that's the word, in the back end of your website, that when you add an image, it will say alt text. And this stands for alternative text. And originally it was designed for screen readers, and especially back in the day where websites would be a lot slower to load images.
It's for accessibility tools as well, right? So the
yeah,
accessibility tools.
Thing, yeah. So when images would be, websites would be too slow to load, the image wouldn't load, but it would show the alt text. So it would show a description of the image, and that also helps when people are using screen readers for whatever reason, for accessibility. It reads that out. So it's really important if you describe that image really well with something that actually relates to the image and it is then relevant to that page, which I think is really important to make sure we do that. Make sure that actually the image is aligned with what we're actually trying to describe on that page, or that section of that page really. And that can then show up both in Google searches, but also in those AI searches as well. So I had a little look a few weeks ago. I recorded a podcast episode around this where I just went in and just did some searching, did some prompting on ChatGPT, looking for local businesses and looking at what was going on. And actually the images were the ones where it was coming up. And for those local businesses, it was the images where they were mentioning what they did. It was for a dog kennel client of mine. So it was where they mentioned the fact that they were dog walkers and the location, and also it was often the ones that were showing the van with the branding on there. So if you can get those kind of images and get your brand across in there, and actually that it's relevant to add it in the alt text, then that can be really helpful. That can be one of the ways that you can then show up in these AI overviews and or showing up when directly in the ChatGPT and Google Gemini apps really. Maybe that's something we need to talk about, the difference between what's happening in the search results pages and actually people having those conversations with ChatGPT directly.
I think so, because the different models of ChatGPT, and again, there's new models of Claude, Perplexity, and their functionality, and it's almost like the same as what Apple was like back in the day, and Microsoft and Google. They're all competing, bringing out the same things, just in different ways, right? So it's the same as I'm seeing with the AI tools. So ChatGPT released 4.0 mini, and then that's a research function that will set up tasks, that will do automations for you. Claude has just launched that this week as well. We're seeing Perplexity bringing out reporting and more researching as part of it. So,
and Google Gemini's deep research mode as well.
Massive.
Notebook LM is another one that's from Google that's got that deep research mode in it as well. But what Google is doing is actually embedding this into search results pages. So that is something that's coming. It's already released in the US, is the new AI mode that is going to completely change everything with Google search. And we won't be too long behind that in the UK.
I think we're seeing it. Are we not? We're seeing it some
AI
places.
Overviews,
okay.
Unless it's sort of literally been released in the last few days. I haven't seen that when I've been searching on Google. So there's a difference between the AI overviews, which is just where we see that bit at the top where it's kind of trying to answer our questions there and then, whereas actually the AI mode is going to completely change everything.
What's that going to do then, Jules? How's that going to change?
So if somebody is searching for a product or something, then it's going to actually give us almost like a mini blog post. I heard it described by somebody else.
Oh, interesting.
That then answers that query, and rather than it being just links to lots of different websites, what happens AI is it goes out and it fans out that search. So if I ask the question like, how can I treat my menopausal dehydrated skin, it would then think about the searches that would be behind that. So rather than you having to go off and do those individual searches as we would have had to do with Google and do our own research, what's then happening is then in the back end, ChatGPT or Google Gemini will be thinking, okay, so we need to look for skin clinics in this location. We need to look at what type of treatments, what
It's my phone falling down.
prices, reviews, all of those kind of things, and it will go off and it will come back with its best recommendations for the trusted businesses locally. So
that's got my head spinning, because I'm going, right, I'd need to have Google Merchant set up.
Yes.
I'd need to make sure that I've got all my products feeding through my Google Merchant, my Google Analytics, my Google My Business.
Absolutely.
I want to have my alt text on all my imagery, all my text. I want to make sure that the founder has got their influence out on LinkedIn. All their images that go out across all socials have got all their alt text and keywords. It sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it?
It does. And we don't have to, one thing I would always say is we don't have to do it all at once. We definitely don't. But actually, the businesses that are doing this will be setting themselves up for success in the future.
Yeah,
as well, because lots of businesses won't do this. Lots of businesses won't take the time to do this. And it's not stuff that's, some of it is a bit more techie, but a lot of this is not stuff that's particularly difficult to do.
It's a copy and paste job. A lot of it. It's an admin task, I think.
Well, what we need to do with if we want to be recommended by AI is we need to show why our business is the authority in what we do and is trusted, and not just us saying that we're trusted. We need our brand sentiment to be good across the whole of the internet. Lots of people mentioning our business and our brand, and that people are raving about what we do, and that we can show we are the authority on what we do as well. We can show that we know what we're talking about. We've got real lived experience of that, because anybody can create content now using AI. So anybody can appear from just looking at a website full of blog posts or articles and whatever. Anyone can appear that they know what they're talking about. But the thing that makes a difference is somebody actually being able to have their human, real, lived experience in there. And that's not something that at the moment that AI can replicate, really. Well, it kind of can, I suppose, but actually that's why these AI tools are going out and checking about where we're mentioned across the internet, to make sure that we are really that person. They're going to be recommending somebody that really does know what they're talking about, and their brand is good.
That's really helpful, Jules. I think what's interesting is to see how the different, and I'm going to talk about social platforms here, how the different social platforms are adapting and are influenced by AI. So, for example, Meta seems all in on AI content creation, and I've read and heard about them as of next year. Not only will they have their own AI ad platform that you can just generate your ads, that's going to help massively for small businesses. Bye ad agencies, I think, or the ones that are not maybe excelling as well, maybe. But I think what's interesting is how they're just fully focused on getting people to use and implement their AI. When they brought out their terms and conditions around everybody's public content is training their AI, and I've read that they're also building their own influencers, AI influencers. So instead of paying brands being able to pay for influencers now to promote their products or services, businesses will be creating their own influencers that will then be able to say what they want, anything about that business specifically, because it's created by that business, right? Compare that to LinkedIn. LinkedIn, if you post an AI generated image, it'll massively drop your reach. Massively. It comes up with a watermark that says, I can't remember what it says, but it's at the top left corner whenever you post an AI image. It recognizes that it's an AI image. It recognizes that it's AI content. It doesn't like the dashes that AI seems to do instead of a comma. It's a bit of a grammar police in some sort of way. It's wrong grammar, but it's not the right way of doing it. That's how you can tell it's an AI post usually. But LinkedIn is holding back a little bit. It's putting those precautions in place. It's putting those things, those guardrails, which I think are super important, especially from a business level. So interesting to see how
Yeah.
those platforms are working specifically very
Yeah,
differently from each other.
yeah, and I guess it is. They are different. The platforms. So LinkedIn is more of a networking platform. Fundamentally, it's supposed to be. So that's good that they are thinking about that. But yeah, it's interesting about the AI images as well, because yeah, I guess at some point we will have some. Well, I say we will. It will be interesting to see whether anything changes legally where people have to declare that this is AI generated content.
I
I've
know.
listened to a few podcasts that have been AI versions of people that I normally listen to. And I feel like, and I think when I know somebody is using that, I feel like sometimes I listen to normal, or like they're normal, listen to the real human version. I think, is this a
What are we
human?
going to say in the future? Is it the human version or the
Is it the
AI version?
human version?
The
Is it
real, the not real? How are we going to know? I don't
the
know.
problem with this is though that you can there are sites you can go onto where you can check your content to see if it sounds like it's AI written, and I know people who go in there and they put their literally they've
Yes.
handwritten it, literally paper and pen, copy that into there, and it says it's 90% AI written, and it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, okay. And the
Yeah.
problem with that is because AI is trained on our human behavior. So of course, as it gets smarter, then those kind of things is going to happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So
Interesting.
mm,
Now, we don't know the answers to all of these questions. What we're doing is we're just talking about what we see and what we're keeping ourselves updated with and what our experience is when we're working with
yeah.
businesses and individuals, as well as they're trying to not only increase their visibility through using SEO as a strategy for that. But let's talk a little bit about what mistakes people make then. So we've talked about some myth busting.
Yeah.
We've definitely shared a ton of tools a ton of ways that people can improve in their SEO. So what are some of the mistakes that people tend to make generally right now when it comes to their SEO, and what do they need to do
Hmm.
as the AI evolves even
Yeah.
further?
So I think the biggest mistake is just ignoring it. That's
Mm.
like such a big, and the most common one really, of just feeling like, okay, this is too techy, or it just feels like too much. Whereas actually, if we do these things, if we put some of the basics in place, not only are we setting ourselves up to show up in searches right now, and I think that's probably one thing to remember, is that as much as it can sometimes feel, especially when you're in the tech world, it can sometimes feel like, oh, nobody's using Google anymore. But it's not true. Google still, within search engines, it still has over 90% of the market
It's
share.
learned behavior. All I believe all of this stuff is just learned behavior, and how we need to change for it is just changing our processes and how we do things. It's just that learned behavior, adding on a different task for people to do as they're doing that within the workplace. And how do we change individuals' behaviors when they're interacting with their phones? We've got to think about mobile.
Yeah,
That's how most people interact online, is via
yeah,
mobile. So
yeah.
the browsers will automatically open up in Google most of the time anyway, as their search engine.
There's a reason there's
Yeah.
a verb for it, really, isn't there?
Yeah,
You know,
Googling it.
we don't talk about going at Yahooing it. You know,
Do you
we do.
know, we haven't talked at all about Microsoft products, and all the Microsoft products are built with Edge, and it'll open up on Bing. And I know a lot of businesses generally have issues with that and Bing search and all of this too. And I never seem to talk about Microsoft and Microsoft Bing and how that impacts with SEO or anything like that either. Do you have any information or anything around how that works with
So probably in
those search
relation to what we're
engines?
talking about today, one of the important things to understand is that ChatGPT is built on OpenAI, which is owned by Microsoft, and it's likely that a lot of that data that has trained ChatGPT was trained from Bing. But the important thing to remember is if you're doing the things with your website that helps you to show up in Google, then that will also help you to show up in Bing and Yahoo and all of the other places that people are, might be using, all of the other random stuff that
Yeah,
people
I
might be
mean
using.
the Google's the leader of it. I
Yeah.
actually just got an email from
And
them
Google is
today,
still
actually.
involved with the AI stuff as well. Google, as I say, this AI mode that's coming out with Google, people will literally be able to go on there and ask a question, and it will come up, and eventually it will go up and make the purchase for you as well. So
Yeah,
it
you can
is
do that with
usable.
ChatGPT as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I
So
did
yeah,
get something from Google today. I was just going to look at it here and see, because they were talking about Google Google AI, ready to integrate AI into your startup. So Google are bringing Gemini API sprints that you can register for.
I mean,
just now.
there is so much stuff around
Amazing.
Google that in itself. There's so much stuff around what Google's developing and the API in the background, and that's definitely not my area of expertise. As much as I would love to, like, dive into that more, it
Me
just is
too.
mind blowing. It's enough keeping up with all the SEO stuff and the website stuff, really. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's really incredible what's going on, really.
it's absolutely constant. And the great thing is that these tools are providing some really great training on it all.
Yeah.
So if you do want to specialize um in a specific area of this, you can just go on to these platforms. Google specifically always have some really, really good training around it. But I saw that email coming in. They've got a startup school, Agentic AI. So, which is really go how you can learn how to create AI agents, which is really what people are looking for at the moment, is some tasks and
Yeah.
AI agents to do some of that
Yeah.
for them.
Coming back to the mistakes that people make and people ignoring what's going on in the changing world of search at the moment, or ignoring SEO in general, I think this, for businesses that do embrace this and start thinking about the fact of, okay, what do I need to do to increase my authority across the whole of the internet, to increase, so that if somebody does type into or ask ChatGPT, I know this is one of your favorite things of asking Perplexity, you can talk about this in a minute, but actually, what do I want to be known for? What does my business need to be known for? And actually just taking that back and thinking about that, and then just implementing that, making sure your website is really clear. One of the things I always say is think about what you want to show up for, which page of your website is the most relevant for that search, and then optimize that page. And just make sure that you are actually talking about those things on that page in a way that's clear, natural, human written content, or not human written. That's not quite necessarily the right term, but conversational language. So if it's something that you wouldn't say out loud to a customer, don't put it on your website. Say it in a way that does sound like it's more natural and written more naturally, really. I think we can often end up being clever or trying to make it sound too professional, and actually that then doesn't connect with our customers, really.
Yeah, there's so many websites, and probably mine's a bit like this sometimes as well, that you go on and you're like, what does that mean?
Yes.
How does that work?
And
it does.
You can't read the label from the inside of the jar, can you? So that's where sometimes just having some help with this. And I do think that I think that human help with this ultimately will be, as much as we can use AI to help us, just having a real human's eyes on it is helpful. It's definitely helpful.
It's the infrastructure is the SEO that helps guide the tools to that platform. It's the humans that are reading it and interacting it that are in order to make that purchase or to take that action to do something on that space. And again, that goes back to, if the AI tools are going to be doing things like the bookings for us, if your content on your website isn't effectively set up, let's say I'm searching for a hotel that's dog friendly, that's got availability on this specific date, and your hotel says, yes, we're dog friendly, but you're not dog friendly, or you've not updated that on your website, it's going to go and book that. And me as the consumer is going, great, I've got the AI tools did it for me, fantastic. I've got all these PAs, these task AI agents doing all this stuff for me. But then me as the consumer then going to the place with my dog, and it's going, no, we don't take dogs.
Yeah,
and that's because it's not updated the website.
Yeah, or it's now a luxury, like
I know.
you haven't even got a booking. I think, and this is the thing, is that this isn't going to change overnight. People still have that mistrust of it, and rightly so, because often it does hallucinate. ChatGPT, Google Gemini, it hallucinates. It will blag it as well. It will tell you that these things are true, and even when you then prompt it and say, "Is that right?" Yeah, oh no, sorry, and then it will blag it with something else as well. So I think until that is solved, and I don't know whether that ever will be solved, but until it's trustworthy, and this is one of the big things with Google, is people do trust Google. People trust Google to deliver the websites that are actually answering that search. And the good thing now with actually, if people are, or if businesses are optimizing for this, is it does level the playing field a little bit on this. So it won't just be about the website that's got the best SEO set up. Definitely the foundations being in place is important, but because it is going to be going and checking across the whole of the internet, it's actually more the businesses that are genuinely the best recommendations, really.
I was just looking something up because I read this recently and I was just wanted to get the right number. So that's the percentage of people that trust technology or trust Google more than they would a human. So remember when I was at school, we had to go and research these things. We had to go and look them up because the internet wasn't really fully there and Google didn't have all of that stuff on it
We
very
go to the
much then.
library.
Go to the library. We used to have to go to the library and use encyclopedias. And now everybody just uses Google, and now all the kids are using AI. And so the percentages, if I just look at the Google AI overview, a recent IPSOS survey found that while people are concerned around the misuse of AI, they actually trust AI slightly more than humans when it comes to not discriminating or showing bias. A survey indicated that 43% of people trust AI to avoid bias,
Wow.
while only 38% trust humans to do the same.
Wow. The problem with that is that AI is trained on the internet, and
I
there is
know.
a huge
Whole lot of
amount of
rubbish on
bias
the
on the
internet.
internet. So yeah, this is something that is
Look at this.
definitely not necessarily the topic for today, but this is
I know.
definitely
An
something that's
Oracle
interesting.
study found that 64% of people would trust a robot more than their manager, and
Okay,
half
yeah.
have turned to a robot instead of their manager for advice. 64% of people. I'm not listening to my manager. Now there's always that chat anyway, but it's interesting. Only 1% of people trust AI to make significant workplace decisions, though 63% would trust it for insights.
Mm. I mean, that's probably it would be true because it is quite good at reading data
Yeah.
and extracting things from data. But again, the same thing there, that it doesn't necessarily always give you that specific answer, and a
No.
lot of that is in how you're prompting it, and prompting it to avoid bias, and because it wants to it wants to give you the answer that it thinks you want to hear, basically,
Yeah,
going in that
it's
way.
definitely. I always think it's two steps ahead, and I always
Mm.
have to remind it to come back to what
Yeah.
it is that we're actually working on. It's like
Yeah.
that. It's like that team member that you've got to encourage to stay on task, if that makes sense. It's pretty much how I like to think about the AI sometimes.
Full of
But
ideas, but not necessarily
is
ready for
it
the
right? Like,
implementation.
exactly. But again, it's the importance of making sure that your web presence is really up to date then, because if you've got web pages or articles that are super old and not relevant to the business anymore, is it important to remove that content then from your website or archive it in a way? Or what would you recommend? Is it removal?
Not necessarily.
What
It
do you
does
think?
depend on the content. It depends on what you're trying to achieve with your business. And this is where taking it back to that point where you get clear on your messaging, you get clear on exactly who you're trying to help. And
Okay.
this is where niching can be really helpful with AI, because it is so much better at connecting those niche sites with the people that are trying to find them. Actually doing that, making sure that you know what topics. I always talk about your core topics. What are the most important things that your website needs to show up for, and that you need to be the authority on, really. And I normally say to break it down to sort of 3 to 5 core topics, the things that you want to be known as the expert on. And then look at your website. And I'm all about repurposing content. If you've got a ton of blog posts that you wrote years ago that actually they need updating, but they're not unrelated to what you do right now. That, I always say, it's rare that people need a whole new website unless they have entirely changed their business. There's always going to be something there that you can use and update. And actually showing Google that I always just come back to Google because what we do for Google helps with everything else. But actually showing the bots that your website is being updated regularly as well is really important. So I would definitely say, rather than just going through and removing stuff for the sake of it, make sure you know what content is performing well, and what content maybe just is there and can just be updated, definitely. Because if those URLs on your website have existed for a while, then it's better to do that than a brand new URL on your
You're
website.
so right, because when I've searched for, I've got thousands of bookmarks across different browsers over the years, especially now over this many years in business,
Yeah.
because you save them and you go back to them sometimes, and then when you go back to them, they've been updated. So is it about updating previous blog posts
Yeah. Yeah, why not? I
with more
certainly.
relevant information
Yeah.
because the URL's out there, it's got traffic to it already. It's just making it more relevant, adding in more maybe SEO friendly
Yeah,
text and
definitely.
things like that as part of it. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. And
That's
what
really
this is one of the
interesting.
things we can do to help our content to show up in AI overview. So if we've got loads of blog posts that just need an update, we can then go in, maybe even just adding in a summary at the top. or key takeaways. So I've started doing this. I create blogcast episodes on my website where I'll link to my podcast, link to my YouTube channel, and at the top of that I will have key takeaways, key quotes, like main quotes and things like that, and a summary.
The resources, the summary, the key
all of those kind of things.
takeaways, the links, because that includes. We've not talked about backlinking or linking in any way.
That's an interesting.
Let's talk a little bit about that as well, because how important is that now? Do you think? Is it just as important?
Just coming back to where we were on the adding in a summary at the top of your blog. The reason that's important as well with AI is then they may be the bits that then appear in those AI overviews.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and if it is, and even things like frequently asked questions, if you can have those as real sort of snippets, and this is where breaking up great big long paragraphs into different, different paragraphs.
Yeah, different sections, different bits.
Into short blocks can help as well. That definitely can make a difference. So sometimes it's a case of doing that. We haven't talked about structured data, which is really important. And this is something you can do. You can add into or update in your blog post to show when this article was written and when this article was updated. And actually doing that as well. So a lot of website builders will do that automatically. But structured data is one of the most important parts of websites being readable and being clear to the robots.
Does WordPress do that automatically whenever you're doing your updates, or do you need to change the schema or anything like that?
You need to have a plugin that does that for you. If you're using WordPress, then either something like Rank Math, Yoast, or there's loads of plugins that will do that automatically for you. For some website builders, you can just go and generate that yourself. But schema is basically, it's also named as structured data or schema markup, is where all of the major search engines originally in the original days of the internet, like Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, Yandex, all of the different ones, came together and they created like a standardized code that helps the search engines to understand things about your website and your business in a clearer way. So actually, if you have that information there, you can add things in, like if you've got online courses, you can add video lengths, learning levels, whether it's for beginners or whatever. If you've got products, you can add in info like prices, whether it's in stock, reviews. You can add business information, all of those kind of things that then it helps the AI to understand what's going on with your website as well. And actually going in and then updating that can then just show very quickly that this is an updated article and is something that should be in the search results. And something to do when you're thinking about that, if you're creating new articles, is try and avoid content that does date. So if you're writing an article about the best skincare for 2025, don't use 2025 in the URL, because otherwise that is then always going to be dated. Whereas actually, if it's just best skincare this year, and then you can update everything within that article, and that can continue to be showing up there.
That's a really great tip, because then it can just be an annual update that you do as part of that. But don't add the year into it. So we've talked in the past about different web tools that people are using now, because it is becoming a lot more accessible for people to build their own websites. So WordPress still being one of the main web builder tools that is mostly used out on, because of its functionality. But Squarespace, Wix, all of these ones, they don't have the same amount of flexibility, right, as WordPress, to be able to build in their SEO aspects to it. Is it more a simplified process for people?
Yeah, it is more simplified. So I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really, because yes, WordPress, you can do anything with WordPress. But for the majority of small business owners, it's often overwhelming, and you've got lots of plugins trying to do everything together. And we're not back in the day where a lot of websites would be hand coded, and then WordPress was an easier version of that. We're now here, and these website builders are so much better. They're so much more user friendly. They do so much more, and they're getting more and more functionality all the time, and they perform better. That actually, I don't tend to recommend WordPress as much now, really, and very rarely that I do, because the majority of my clients aren't people, they're people that just want something that's easy for them to update, and it's not going to blow their mind, and they've not got to keep going.
It's not going to break all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you're not going to get
plugins conflicting all the time,
and then your website's gone, and it says, "Oh, there has been an error," and that's it. So, and you've got to go in and also remember to update it, otherwise you might get hacked, and all of that kind of stuff. That a lot of these all-in-one platforms or the website builders like Squarespace and Wix will handle that for you, really. And that's not there's no reason why a well-built website within those can rank as easily as a WordPress website. One of the things I would always say as well is actually a website that's being updated regularly in Squarespace is much better than a WordPress website that hasn't been touched for 5 years because you're scared of breaking it. So,
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that people just generally don't do is update their website enough,
yes, we're all here creating content for social media and forgetting about the thing that we actually own.
which is our website and our email marketing.
Yep, the place where we make our sales, the place where we get people onto our CRMs that are onto our email list.
How the
And
tools know where to find you and direct you to.
And this
And
is something
that,
I see so often
yeah.
where people have amazing social media platform profiles, and they're really talking about everything they do, all the problems they solve. They're talking about how, in very simple language, they're really connecting with the customers there. And then you go to their website and it's like a different business, or it's they've just taken all of the personality out of it. They're not really talking about how they solve their customers' problems. And it makes me want to cry when I see that. It's like,
I know.
I'm
And
gonna
you do
look
see
into
that
some of
vice
it.
versa though as well. You'll see websites that are just really well, and I see that from the larger corporate style businesses themselves, that their websites are very well structured, updated, and always compliant and as they should and always be required to be, with the updated information that's coming out about industry and industry updates and things like that as well. But their social presence is null and void, and they don't think about how that all connects together and the importance of it. Again, sometimes it is around, is their audience on those platforms? Do they want to spend the time and investment on those platforms and themselves? But I think in the age of AI, we've just got to consider how the tools are working and keeping on top of how the tools are using the data to be able to find you in your business. So like that we mentioned previously around perplexity and searching in perplexity, and it pulls up LinkedIn most of the time about your business, LinkedIn, website, and other places that your business has been talked about. And so it's important that you've got to consider this. It's not just your website, it's not just social media, it's not just both. It's the entire visibility. And I think teams really need to come together and go, it's not just the marketing team that look after this. It is going, okay, what is the web team doing? What is the dev team doing? What is the sales team doing?
Yeah,
And how is that linking with all of the other departments? What is the data that's coming from all of this? How are we understanding this and getting it across
yeah, absolutely.
effectively?
And this leads really well into links and talking about linking as well. And this
Okay.
is something that is changing. One of the biggest things that will be more important moving forward is digital PR, and making sure that you are not only that you're mentioning your brand throughout the internet, where you have got those social media platforms set up and you're in all the major places, even if you're not creating content constantly, that you do have a presence there.
Yeah.
And if it's a local business, that you are mentioned in local directories and those kind of things. And that kind of went away a little bit. It became less relevant. Like before, when we were just thinking about Google and SEO for Google, we were thinking like, it used to be, oh yeah, get on all of the local directories and that will build backlinks, so links into your website, and that helps to increase your website's authority, makes you more likely then to show up in search engines.
Yeah.
But actually that we kind of lost a little bit of that where that became less relevant. Google was better at understanding those links rather than it just being a directory linking. Google was understanding where real other websites or real humans have recommended a business. But actually now we're moving more towards actually having that presence across the whole of the internet, and that's helpful then to use those a bit more as well. So just making sure you've got that set up, but also thinking about how you can get digital PR across things like industry relevant listings, whether that is listings or whether that's industry articles, in industry awarding bodies, those kind of things, making sure that your business is being mentioned there as well. And I think that's one of the big things that people can do if they're thinking about, okay, how do I ensure that I am actually showing up in and being recommended by AI? Making sure your foundations are set in place, so make sure your website is set up specific like for SEO, having that presence across the internet, but also thinking about how can I get better digital PR really. And
That's
it's
so
not
useful.
it's not just those kind of, it's also the forums like
Yeah.
Reddit, Quora, those kind of places as well.
Pinterest.
Pinterest, all of those places where actually it's real humans talking about their experience with your business is what then is the difference between businesses that have just optimized and are actually real recommendations really. So yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? There's so much to this topic, and I think we'll finish off with one more question. And I think it will really be around quick fixes, best practices, and things they can do right now to help with their SEO.
Yeah. So I think one of the best things is to take a step back and think about what you want to be known for going forward. Think about what your brand stands for, what your brand values are, your brand voice, who your customers are, the problems that you solve in really clear language, and that like that transformation for your customers. You know, what does your business help with? And then thinking about how you can get that, like which pages on your website is most relevant for that, and get the basics of your SEO in place. So making sure your website is well structured, that it loads quickly, that you've got your structured data, your schema markup in place, that you are actually talking about the things that people are searching for. And then just thinking about that digital PR. So making sure that you are doing things to help to increase your authority and increase your brand general sentiment about your brand, that your brand has a positive sentiment across the internet, which is not necessarily something that's easy, but it's something that actually thinking about that moving forward. Okay, how this is what I want to be known for. How can I get that out there and increase that really?
That's brilliant, because you want your customers to come to you in the same way as you're going looking for your customers. And SEO is the way to help you to be able to do that.
Yeah. People are out there searching for what you sell. And actually, yeah, if you can connect with that. And that's probably a really good point to say about the fact that a lot of sites will be getting a lot less traffic because the AI overviews, a lot of sites that get blog traffic will find that they will have a drop in traffic. But people are still going to be buying stuff. People are still want to spend their money. And actually what this does is if you're recommended in those AI recommendations, then it's already done the research for them, and they're much more likely, if they do eventually come through and click through to your website, they're much more likely to convert because they're not just searching through 10 different websites themselves. This is a real recommendation that's trusted from them. So.
I think people forget that these tools are free, right? Google's free to use. Yeah. Google Maps is free to use. Social media is free to use. Their purpose is to keep you on that platform, to keep you using that tool, because then they can sell advertising to you in that way. So your goal as a business is to always think about how do you make sure that you're visible in a way that the tools can recognize and promote your content in the way that keeps people on the platform. And I don't think that will ever change until advertising changes in some sort of way.
Changing a lot as well, and I think that as that comes into AI tools, that can change things again.
Then we go into wearables, and then we start to go into like Back to the Future style sharks coming out.
Minority Report,
all of that stuff. That's going to come. That's going to come. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to think about as well is if you're thinking, oh well, I won't bother writing blogs because I don't want to just then feed the AI overviews. It's better to be mentioned in there. It's better to be in there than not. So don't panic and don't think, well, I'm going to delete all my blog posts because what's the point? Because even those AI overviews will get some clicks coming through to your site as well.
Oh, we've got some more comments coming in. Will we just look at a couple of these questions? Wrong grammar is a nightmare in the making. My brain can't comprehend this. Yes, it's true. Different countries build websites in different ways too. I've noticed this when I've travelled internationally, and it's wild, though it's still difficult to find information book places per country. The other caveat, getting into travel tech mode, is when you're using a big travel booker like booking.com, if something goes wrong, the AI is maddening. Interesting.
Yes. When you can't get through to a live agent.
Yeah, that's so true. And even now, humans, the amount of people that are going, I've contacted a human customer support and I'm not getting the right advice.
Yes. Because they're probably using AI in the end, like in the back end anyway, really, aren't they? Yeah.
I know. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Where people who know their stuff and people who do embrace AI rather than being scared of it, then we're still going to need humans to operate the robots, right?
Exactly. It's humans at the heart of it all, and it will always be that. And I will say that again, the robots are not going to take over yet. No, they're not going to take over. It's us that are still going to we need to be more human and have more human behaviours, those essential skills that are going to help us in this future.
If the robots do take over, then that you'll need your network of humans who will be the rebellion.
It's true, isn't it? Right, Jules.
That's a really good point to end on, actually, is that the fact that above all of this, above SEO, above websites, above tech, the human connections and the human network that you build, no algorithm can take that away from you. And I think it's important to focus on that first.
yeah, humans at the heart of it all. Humans will be humans. And humans will always find a shortcut, is what I say as well. So they will always find a way. They're always problem solvers. We always are. It's how we evolve. Okay, Jules, how can people find you? How can they work with you? What's the best way for them to continue this conversation?
So head to my website, which is the websitesuccesshub.com, the websitesuccesshub.com, say that clearly. So yeah, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got a YouTube channel as well. So, but yeah, head to my website, check out my stuff, and feel free to send me a message if you want to connect.
Yeah, I can't highly recommend Jules enough. You've just got a little bit of knowledge sharing here. You can head over to the Digital Dominators podcast and listen to Jules' episode on SEO. It's the first one on the list there, so it won't be too hard to find. And you can connect with me at Technology Coaching. We do training on SEO and our social media marketing and our AI and automation CPD accredited courses, and we can help you work out how to get all of that set up and structured in a way. So thank you so much for joining me today, Jules. This was a great first lunch and learn. It was really chilled and relaxed. Thanks for some comments. We've got Marge in there in the comments as well. I'll need to make sure I refresh that page on LinkedIn next time I do this.
I'll have a look at the comments now.
Yeah, there's none on YouTube, but hopefully they might come in at some point. It's our first one as well. We've got 3 people watching, so that's quite cool.
That's nice.
So we'll see. I know. Hello. Hi, YouTube. All right. Well, thank you so much. Check out Jules at the website Success Hub, and we'll see you at another Lunch and Learn soon.
Where's your website, though, Sue?
Technologycoachingonline.com. Technology Coaching. If you search Technology Coaching or Digital Dominators, you should find us.
Hopefully.
You should find us. If not, I've got some work to do, don't I? So,
We've
yeah.
always got some work to do.
I know after what I've learned just now, I've got some stuff to do around my Google, but it just feels, one task at a time, right?
Absolutely.
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks so much, Jules.
Thank you, Sue.
Bye.
Bye.